Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux. What's up, Startup Nation? We are back for another amazing episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. I'm Dr. Kate Campbell, and here with my amazing co-host, business partner, friend, all of the above, Katie Lemieux.
Yeah, that's me. Hey, everybody.
Yes. Today we have a really special guest with us, actually.
Super special.
Super special. Are you excited? Are you curious yet? We actually have Allison Puryear, and she is here. She's here with us from Abundance Practice Building. She's a licensed clinical social worker and certified eating disorder specialist, and she is a practice building badass. Can I say that on the podcast?
Yes, we can. Hey, it's Allison's here. She likes to swear, so we can totally say badass. Hey, Allison.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, it's a treat to have you. So we're super excited.
It really is. Yeah. So Allison's going to be talking today about 3 non-counseling ways counselors can bring in more income.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to bring in more income, right?
I like it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all love what we do, and we work so hard at it. It's important that we're reaping the benefits as well. So before we get started, we just wanted to remind you guys, for any first-time listeners, thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have you and hope you find a tremendous value in our podcast here. We've got a special gift for you, so make sure you visit our website, theprivatepracticestartup.com. Head over to our resources tab, and there you'll be able to download our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your private practice. And for those of you that are returning and have heard episodes before, we thank you for being here. And we always want to encourage you guys to find us on our Facebook group, the Private Practice Startup. That's where we have our exclusive private practitioners from around the globe and those supporting us. We have our podcast guests. Allison's a member there. Lots of tips, tricks, ninja tips, hashtag ninja tips.
Hashtag ninja tips.
Exactly.
That's right.
So lots of good stuff.
Got a member from Australia this week. I thought that was
and
pretty
Italy
cool.
too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So we're going international. Good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a little bit about Allison, and then we're just going to get into the topic. So like Kate said, Allison is from Abundance Practice Building. And if you don't know her yet, where have you been? Get to know her. Check her out. She is amazing. She's just super authentic, fun, vulnerable. She tells it like it is. We've been following her for quite some time. So we're super excited to have her here with us today. So Allison's at LCSW with a nearly diagnosable obsession for business development.
I love that.
Yeah. She has started practices in 3 different cities and wants you to know that building a private practice is shockingly doable when you have a plan and support. 100%. So important.
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's get right into it. Allison, tell us a little bit about what led you into the business that you're in now.
In the practice building business?
Yes.
So I've been ping-ponging around the States with private practice, and we moved from Seattle to Asheville, North Carolina, and we knew we were putting down roots here, and I was, building my practice here and having a good time doing it, and I had this weird sense of sadness that I would never get to start another private practice after this, probably. And so I had been helping friends across the country because practice building had been really fun for me, and I really liked all the activities involved in it. So just as some of my friends in different places in the country had awful agency jobs they wanted to get out of, when they saw me having success, they'd be like, well, what'd you do? How'd you do it? So when I landed here in Asheville and was nearly full and couldn't build again, I happened to go to a networking event, and out of my mouth came this thing about enjoying helping people set up practices. And that got a lot of attention. I was literally like 60 people went around the room and said a thing, and I forgot to plan what I was going to say. And that's what flew out. So it was really kismet. And I started my first group not long after that, of just local folks. And Abundance was local initially before it went, now I guess it's international. But yeah, it was not something I was like, I'm going to start an online business, because I very naively thought it would be very similar to starting a counseling practice, and it's not. But I love it. Like, I just love helping people build. It's so fun.
It is. And it's funny that you say about like, it's different than starting an online business. I feel like this is a whole new beast and animal, like totally different.
Yeah, it's a nice learning curve and a nice personal development journey.
For sure.
Yeah, one of the cool things about you, Allison, is that, I mean, Katie definitely hit on some of your personality attributes, and those are awesome. And then the fact that you actually have built several different private practices, and you're currently in private practice now. So how long have you been in private practice?
I've been in private practice for 11 years.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah. And then, one in Georgia, one in Washington, and then one in Asheville now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So being that you've been in private practice for 11 years, and then you're also in the business of helping private practitioners, what would you say is the best advice that you've ever received that relates to being an entrepreneur?
It depends on what day you ask me, but today I'm going to say just the way that personal development is just absolutely woven into going into business for yourself. You can't have one without the other. You can't succeed in business without really looking at some hard things about yourself. And I've grown to really appreciate that in a way that on the front end, I might not have appreciated quite as much.
As you say that, I just get chills because, I really feel that business is a metaphor for our life, right? And so if you're willing to look at yourself and do the work, it's a constant mirror and reflection, and it's a constant tweaking tool. I actually just thought of this quote yesterday about myself, I guess, that I really didn't know who I was or what I was capable of until I became an entrepreneur. And it's just really this beauty of this journey of really putting in all your efforts, taking your fails as failing forward and failing fast, getting up and doing it again and trying something new. And Kate and I always talk about the wet spaghetti on the wall. You just throw, I think that's because my brother and I used to do that when my mom would leave the table. We would play napkin basketball in each other's cups. And then, if we were having pasta that night, for sure we were throwing that on the wall when she left. But it's trying to figure out what sticks. And then when it sticks, you're like, yeah, and you keep going. And then when it falls off, you're like, well, guess not going to do that again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Entrepreneurship is such a wild ride. I mean, it's amazing how much you learn about yourself through the ups and downs and twists and turns. It's so many unexpected directions. It's a really cool process. So that's a great bit of advice.
Yeah. And I think of counselors as being particularly well positioned for this journey because we already value feeling the feelings and being present and being introspective and all the things that I think really in the long run make it easier for us to start a private practice than maybe a restaurateur who doesn't have some of the therapy experience we might have starting a restaurant,
Yeah. And I'm glad you say that because that's one thing that I do tell therapists. I'm like, guys, your skills are completely transferable. Do you think you do sales? You of course do. You're helping people shift and change. You're reshaping language. I'm like, it's no different. Really, it's just a different context. So I let them know yeah, you guys are ahead of the game. So I'm glad that you said that as well.
Yeah.
So I wondered if you'd be willing to share with our audience something that you've had to overcome to be where you are today in business. And you can use that for your private practice business or even abundance.
That's a good question. Let's see. One thing I've needed to overcome is I have to do it all myself mentality, and I have to do it all perfectly. I'm a lifelong recovering perfectionist, and to not have the immediate results. I think many of us are kind of indoctrinated in this, if you work really hard, you'll get great results. And it's just one after the other, and it's nice and clean and easy. And it's so not the way it is in any sort of business building. There's so many seeds that you're planting, and you're not sure if they're going to bloom or if they're just going to die there in the soil until months later sometimes. And learning to be patient with myself and learning to outsource things. I think I shared with you guys just in an email exchange we were having or a Facebook something about how I'm obsessed right now with outsourcing. So
yes.
I can have the kind of life that I want to have because you know what? I'm not awesome at SEO. I never will be. So why spend hours of my week doing that when I can hire somebody who's great at it, who actually enjoys it?
For sure.
Yeah, we're definitely in alignment with you on the outsourcing aspect and really focusing on what you love to do with the business and then outsourcing, delegating the rest.
And really helping therapists from the beginning as they start their practice, having that in mind. Let's not wait till you're in, full swing. Let's talk about it now, which is definitely not something. Well, oh, wait, no one coached us. So I was going to say we didn't get coached on that. I was like, wait, we didn't get coaching. But yeah, now doing that now and coming back, I'm constantly looking at my schedule and things like that. And like, what don't I love? What am I not good at? And I need to outsource that and get that done.
Okay, so let's dive into your topic. Tell us the 3 non-counseling ways counselors can bring in more income.
Yeah. So first, I need to get on a soapbox real quick. So if the people listening, if there are some people, I'm sure there are lots of people listening right now who are at the very beginning of their private practice journey and they're still working on getting clients through the door. The idea of passive income is maybe something you've seen in the Facebook groups or you've read about online, and it sounds awesome. Like, sit down, make some money in your sleep. That sounds amazing. Passive income is anything but passive. It is a lot of time and energy putting towards whatever you're creating, not to mention all of the marketing efforts that you have to either maintain if it's evergreen, which means people can buy it anytime, or the marketing efforts that go into launching it and relaunching it over and over. Having just completed another launch, I'm very clear that it's a very time-consuming experience, even though all of the work for the course is already done or whatever you're launching. There's still a lot of marketing involved. So I want people to know what they're getting into if they're going to launch something or, create a quote unquote passive stream of income. I also want people to know that you have to have an audience to launch it to. Just throwing something on your website, like toiling over something amazing like a book or a course or something like that, throwing it on your website and hoping people buy is likely to lead to a lot of disappointment. And so doing some research, building your list, getting really clear about what you want to provide to people, who your people are, first off, and doing all that is important.
Well, I think, Allison, it goes back to what we read about your bio is you said, it's possible and doable with having a plan and support. So
Yes.
That's just kind of going with what you said is you really have to have a plan for marketing or a plan for your launch.
And I just want to share a really quick book with you guys. I've been reading a book by Jeff Walker, who is the creator of the product Launch Formula. And the book is called Launch, an Internet Millionaire's Secret Formula to Sell Almost Anything Online, Build a Business You Love, and Live the Life of Your Dreams. And I'm telling you, if you're interested in launching a product or service or passive income streams, additional revenue streams, any of that, this book is a huge resource. So we'll make sure to include the link for that in our show notes. And I've been really enjoying reading that book. And it just kind of ties into what you're talking about, because there is so much work that goes into launching a product or a service and relaunching and the pre-launch and the pre-launch and the post-launch and all of that.
Absolutely. And Jeff Walker, that book Launch is actually what I based my launches off of. It's fantastic. I totally agree with you.
Awesome. And
my launches have been highly successful. I've had 3 now. And yeah, he lays it out in that book in a way that's so applicable. Like I literally created an outline based on what he talked about and have used that outline over and over.
That's awesome. It's so great to hear from firsthand experience that it has been really useful in your launches.
So tell us, what's another way for our counselors to bring in income? Non-counseling way.
Well, one more quick soapbox is like build your counseling practice first. Because if you're trying to write a book and build your counseling practice and promote an e-course or something like that, all of your energy is spread so thin and you're not doing any of it very well. But if you are building your private practice, you're going to learn certain things about business that are going to be applicable, and you can automate as much as humanly possible the business side of your private practice so that you'll then have time to really hit it out of the park with whatever your next thing is. So to answer your question, like an e-course is a great opportunity. Some of you have probably taken e-courses and maybe not known that that's what it was. It might have been a CEU course that you took online, something like that. But basically an e-course, you come up with a curriculum. I highly recommend that you come up with a curriculum that excites you and that comes naturally to you in some way, and also to think about your ideal client's pain points and find the intersection of those things. Think about it kind of like if you've got your PhD, you might have worked on a dissertation, right? And you want to choose something that's, you can have some sustained energy around like that. So e-courses are great. And it's if you already have an audience, polling your audience to see what they need is the best way to build a course. That's what I did. I have a scripts and templates e-course, which we can talk about in a minute, just in terms of like the results from that. But with those kinds of things, I kept seeing people in my Facebook group asking questions like, I'm getting a lot of calls, but I can't get them into my private pay practice. They all want to use their insurance. Or a client owes me money. Can you just tell me like what to say to them? And I realized that one thing I'm naturally good at is knowing what to say, like, because I talk to like everyone and everything. But I'm good at coming up with scripts. I'm good at coming up with templates. It comes easily to me in a way that a lot of things don't. And so I found that asking them what kind of scripts would be helpful. And that's literally what I built my program on, was my Facebook group people saying like, oh, I'd love a script for the first phone call, script for intake stuff. I'd love a script for negotiating rent. So I have this scripts and templates course that has over 60 scripts in it at this point, and it gives people the language and it gives people quick wins. And that's one thing with e-courses that I really love, is if you can develop something that will help people have quick wins. So like, I'm an eating disorder therapist. If I can give some hard and fast, amazing coping skills that don't feel like chores, that would be a quick win for somebody to ride out a binge or prevent themselves from purging, that kind of thing.
And we actually purchased your scripts and they're awesome. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of let people know that. Definitely check out Allison's scripts. I know that you're going to launch it again, right? You had done an initial launch and you kind of closed the launch. Is that correct? Or can people still purchase them?
Yeah, they can purchase them in November. So November of 2017, and then probably again in March of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So e-courses are a great thing. You have to have people to launch it to, though. Otherwise, it's a lot of work. So I'd work on list building prior to putting forth all the effort for an e-course.
And what are some of the best ways that you have found work for private practitioners to build their list?
So I think looking at whether you want something to be clinician facing or client facing, and I think a lot of people automatically think about what they can develop for their clients. But sometimes if we can help other clinicians, that actually is going to yield more referrals because you become known as the expert in your area. And as your colleagues in town or in the surrounding areas purchase your e-course or engage in the talks you're giving or whatever, you can have kind of more of an impact because you could help train them on whatever your favorite presenting concern is. You can help train them in how to really do a great job helping those clients, or when to know to refer, or those kinds of things. So you become a known entity. So I would come up with something, and I'm kind of an outlier. I'm not a huge fan of therapists having client-facing email lists. I have a really opinionated blog post about that. I don't think it's wrong to do that. It's just not my style. But if it's, for instance, clinician facing, you could have some sort of a freebie opt-in where they trade their email address for something that solves a clinician's pain point in working with clients. So if they're wanting to learn how to work with, I keep using eating disorders because those are my people, but if so, work with eating disorders, giving them kind of the quick and dirty resources for like how to start getting trained in that. And maybe one of the resources in your freebie is an e-course that you offer.
I love it. Great ideas. Give us another tip.
Let's see. Another tip around e-courses or?
No, your next tip on how to build passive income.
Yeah. So I think one of the most obvious ones is probably group practice. I think that's what a lot of clinicians see as kind of the typical next step, is taking on an associate. I want to bring up a few points that I want people to consider before going that kind of natural route as they're full. One of those is, do you have management experience, and were you any good at it? If not, or maybe even if so, to get some management training before you take on anybody working under you in any capacity. I find that most therapists are really good people, but that does not make us good leaders. Like, I have this thing about being in power that gets in my way. So I want to be this really amazing boss to my employees and contractors. And if I put that first, then I actually end up being a really sucky boss because I'm lax on what I think needs to get done. And I'll be like, well, it's not a huge deal if this I didn't get dotted. Like, it's not the end of the world. But I let a lot of those kinds of things slide if I'm not on top of that. So management training has really helped me be the kind of boss that I'm proud of being, instead of kind of the, please like me, I don't want you to not like me
So
nonsense that I can get trapped in.
So true. And I'm really glad that you said that. I have my own personal story about that. I was actually promoted into leadership at 26 years old, at really management. And, I always say that, a lot of times companies promote people who are good workers. It does not equate to good leaders. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah. And I think, many of us have worked in agencies or group practices where our boss sucks, right? And so I think that there's lots of evidence out there that just because we're good clinicians does not make us great leaders. So group practice, making sure you have some management training, and being really clear about the goal or mission of your group, that it's not just about putting more money in your pocket, because that's not very emotionally sustainable. Like, money's great, and I love money, but all of the headaches that can go with a group practice need to have a mission behind them in order to make it feel worth it.
That is such a great point. Katie and I are really crazy about branding. We just love it. And we have a little bit of an obsession there as well. And we're always encouraging people to get really clear on their brand, their vision, their mission, their culture. Because if you're not clear on that, other people are going to create that culture for you. And that's the last thing you want to have happen in a group practice. So anytime I have a group practice actually in South Florida, and we've got about 13 different practitioners, everybody specializing in a different area. And anytime I bring anybody on, I'm reviewing the vision of our company, the mission of our company culture. And if they're not a good fit for that, that's fine. They can go practice somewhere else. But if they are a good fit for it, they join the team, it just makes it very clear. And that's a really important point.
Yeah.
So I know you have a tip about conferences. Share that with our audience.
Yeah. So conferences are another great way to make some money outside of the counseling relationship. And I think knowing that the promotion, again, you need to have people to launch to. And it could be a local Facebook group for therapists, right? Like, it doesn't have to be your Facebook group for therapists, but like, if there is a local Facebook group, or like here in Asheville, I think we have like 7 of them, you can promote this thing that you've created for therapists. You can do it on anything from like clinical intervention stuff to self-care to networking with one another. There are so many different ways you can do it. I'm doing a conference out in San Francisco with Tiffany McLean in June that has like a 6-month mastermind attached to it. And it's been it's my second live event that I've done. And it's been a great learning experience and seeing what do people want and need and how can we meet those needs, and playing with different ways to market. Because I did another live event last September that's happening again this October here in Asheville. And it's a fun energy to get there, like in the same space with all these people. And I know you guys do this. You do a lot of in-person trainings.
Yeah, we actually just completed last weekend our supervision course training. So in Florida, in the state of Florida, if you want to become a supervisor, you have to take a now 12-hour training. It used to be 16. And actually, this training is how Kate and I actually got started together. And, each training is new and different. And for the first time, we actually doubled our numbers. We usually get around 20 participants. We had 39 this time. So it was a huge training. One thing that we do is we always partner with an agency or organization where they sponsor the space, but they also feed us and feed our attendees, and they get an opportunity to network and connect with, our attendees, really creating great long-term relationships. And, the thing that's really different about our trainings is they're super fun, engaging. We really take on the role of an interactive, experiential style training. And it's just, when you talk about doing things naturally, for me, I actually also been training since I was 26. And I always try to figure out how can I have people have an experience to get what I'm talking about. So it is one of our fun bread and butters. We love it. And we're actually looking forward to creating a practice building training later this year.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's a different experience for participants when the trainers are not just kind of coming in with the curriculum that was set before them or whatever, but to have that interactive, to bring fun to it, to have the expectation be that this is going to be like both clinically and emotionally transformational.
Yeah, we actually play Pictionary and charades in one of our trainings.
I love it.
And we do a trivia too. So they have to kind of come up and separate in teams, and it's a lot of fun.
It's fun. Yeah, it's definitely fun, and something we're really passionate about. Something that, fuels us as well. It's one of those things that you just makes your passion come alive.
For sure. And Allison, I know that you were talking about outsourcing previously. Talk a little bit more about outsourcing as one of your last tips.
Yes. So outsourcing, I think if you've got a private practice that's rolling along and you're wanting to expand into any one of these other income streams, you have got to learn to delegate. And that sometimes means you're going to spend more money than you're making. But if you were willing to invest money in outsourcing some things so that you can really put some time, energy into high quality content, into a really strategic marketing plan, if you're willing to do that, then it's so worth whatever money you're not making in those months by paying them, paying somebody to do some of that work. And then you're more likely to be able to scale and build your business accordingly, because we cannot do it all ourselves. We just can't, not well. I mean, you can stay up all night or, not take good care of yourself and try to make it all happen, but you're still not going to be as great a graphic designer as a graphic designer would be, or, SEO master as an SEO master would be. So to know your limits and to know what you hate and to outsource what you hate first.
Yes, absolutely. We all have different strengths, and let other people be good at what they're good at, and we focus on what we're good at. Absolutely. So what do you want to make sure our listeners with Startup Nation take away from your message today, Allison?
I think that there are so many different options, and these are just three. There's so many different ways for them to build their businesses and in exciting ways. And it just takes some ingenuity, some excitement, and some tenacity to do it, and a plan, obviously. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Go forth and do it.
Yes, it's doable. Absolutely. If you could recommend a great book or resource for our audience related to your topic, what would that be?
Let's see. Well, Launch, you mentioned earlier, Jeff Walker's Launch, and also Virtual Freedom by Chris Ducker actually helped kind of change my mind about outsourcing, because I was trying to hold on to all of it. And I think they're both really good books in different ways.
Nice. I haven't read that one from Chris Ducker, so I'll have to check that out.
And we know you have a giveaway for our audience. And what is that, Allison?
Yeah, so I have at abundancepracticebuilding.com/checklist, a checklist to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row before you see your first client, or if you're already seeing clients, just to make sure that you're kind of CYA'd. But it's got, checklists and resources and some pep talks along the way.
And, Allison, I just want to say one thing about you, because obviously people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And, one of the things about you and, there's Melvin and Joe, and there's, a good handful of us private practice building folks with all a specialty area, really. And it's interesting, I think, because we are most like you in the sense of the services we provide. And I just want to say, guys, Allison is really, truly about abundance, because even though Allison has a checklist and we have a checklist, we had a conversation behind the scenes, like, is it okay to share that? We want to be helpful, but we don't want to step on your toes. And Allison was like, of course, totally. If it's going to help people, then do it. And so it's just so cool when people can come together and collaborate, because that's one of our quality top 3 values is collaboration. We don't believe in competition. We just believe in collaboration. So we just wanted to thank you really for being who you are and your brand, and truly being full of abundance. And that's what you are. And guys, if you haven't checked out Allison, you must do so. She's super awesome. And what?
I'm so glad that you said all of that, because for those of you that maybe are listening for the first time, Katie and I share a brain. We really do. And I swear she just stole those thoughts out of my head. So I'm so glad that you said all of that.
Well, I think if you stuck your hand behind like me, I could just open my mouth and you could talk. It'd be like a ventriloquist act or something. That would be very interesting.
I know. It's pretty crazy.
So Allison, again, we wanted to thank you. And Startup Nation, if this was your first time, welcome. You're now a member. If you are a return person to our podcast, in our Facebook group, or wherever you are, thank you for being part of Startup Nation. You really make all of what we do worth it. So don't forget to check out the show notes page with all the tips, resources, giveaways. And for those of you new supervisors, #Ninja Tips. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share our show with your friends and fellow colleagues. We hope you have an amazing day, and we look forward to continuing to inspire you from startup to mastery.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.